Maya snapping is done via these 6 magnets, or if you hold down X to snap to grid, C to snap to curve, and if I copy this and hold down V, I snap to vertices. Let me just go into vertex mode, turn on wireframe, and now you see my vertices are snapping to the other verts or themselves. When retopoing, for example, you could also use this make live feature. So now this sphere is live. That means any geo I move will always snap to the live object's surface. To move the pivot point, you press D by default and then move it wherever you want. To turn on snapping in Max, you go up here to this number 3 icon and say snap toggle, and if you right click on it, there will be options of selecting snapping types. So in my case, I usually turn on vertex and maybe midpoint. Other than that, I rarely use anything, but they're also available here. Then there is angle snapping, and if you turn this on, it will turn it on, but the window is right here under options. And there is also the most important button here called enable axis constraints, and there is also a percent option if you're interested in that for scaling. So let me just turn on everything. Now in this case, I snap to vertex like this, and if I hold the middle one, then it snaps to vertice. Because enable axis constraint is on, I can snap on the z-axis instantly, and if I turn it off, it doesn't matter. If I only select the z-axis, it will not work. So I always keep this on. Now it also snaps to the edge's midpoint, as you can see right here, and if I rotate, it rotates in increments of 5 degrees as mentioned in this window. And if I type 10 now, it will rotate in an increment of 10 across an axis. It will not snap if I just grab this sphere like this and rotate randomly. So only using an axis. Now if I scale, because this percentage is on, it snaps and scales accordingly to this percent typed in here. And Max has this interesting feature where, for example, if I want to create this box and my length is 10, let's say here, if I press the little arrow, then it snaps in or rises in increments in 0.1 values, right? Now if I press this icon called spinner snapping, it uses 1, a value of 1, and every time I press length now, it uses the value of 1, and that's how you can control the increments with this. So let's say I say 10, and now it rises in increments of 10. But if I turn it off, it's back to 0.1. So that's all about snapping in Max.
So to snap in Blender, I've created this cube with some details just to be able to snap. So I'll just go into edit mode, and now I'll direct your attention up here to this magnet and this little list by its side. If I turn on the magnet, it will be turned on permanently, so I'll be always snapping if this is on. I like to leave it off and just use control whenever I want to snap. Now I'll go into orthographic view for a moment here. I'll explain increment. This is actually snap to grid, but only with this absolute grid snap on. Because if this is on and I choose this vert, you will see that it snaps to the squares every time. And if this is off, in this position of the object, it will do the same thing because its origin point is at 0.0 now, and this increment without this being ticked on is relative to the origin point of the object. So let's say I move this randomly somewhere like this, And you can see that my origin point is somewhere around the middle of this square. And now if increment is on, and I start moving this vert, it will start snapping to an increment that is invisible, to a grid that is invisible, because that grid is relative to my object's origin point. So if you want to snap to grid, the grid that is visible on screen, you have to take absolute grid snap. And now it's snapping to the little squares again. Okay, that's all about increment. Now let's face it, the most important snapping is vertex, edge center, and face project. So when snapping to vertices, the best option is using this active button here. Because this way, let's say I choose this vertice, and I can snap to whatever I want, constrain this, snap to the next one, and I've snapped this here like this. I'll join this and dissolve these edges like this. And now, let's say I have multiple vertices selected like this, and I have my white vertice, which is the active one. Now I want to snap my white vertice to somewhere else, whatever that is. Let's say like this. It doesn't really matter. But if I have my closest on, for example, or any of these options, it will start snapping to the other vertices which are closer to the vertice I want to snap to. And it will drive you crazy, I promise. So best option is active, and just snap with the white vert or whichever is selected, and be sure that you're snapping with your active vertice to wherever you want. Otherwise, try these options if you'd like. I highly recommend it anyway to try everything off this list, but the most important thing is using this snap with active on, because otherwise Blender will drive you a bit crazy if you're new to it, and I don't recommend it otherwise. Now, edge center is the same thing, so if I want to snap this edge here, I just snap it and it will snap to its center. If I want to snap this vertice to this edge's center, it will snap to its center, and so on. And face project is useful when retopoing. Let's say I have another object like this over it. I'll make it a bit larger, and I want to retopo this and snap it to this object. So now face project is on, and I'm snapping these vertices to this object like this. And you can see that everything is snapping to the faces of this cube as I did before. Of course, because I'm moving many verts at once, it won't be efficient to rank the same. It's not what it's supposed to do, and retopo usually uses this shrink wrap modifier anyway, and I'm gonna target this cube, and after shrink wrap is on and this little on cage triangular icon is ticked, I can move my verts like this and it will stick to the surface. But whatever, this is not about retopo, this is about snapping. So let me just get out of this and delete that object. But in the case, face project is really useful like this. Now, that's all about snapping in edit mode. But if you're in object mode, depending on when you watch this video, or actually depending on which version of Blender you use, different things will apply, because Blender 4 has snapping changed in object mode. So let's say you want to snap this corner to this corner. Sadly, in object mode, you can only snap accurately using the origin point. Otherwise, you actually have to use, let's say, this vertex and closest option, and it might snap where you want, but it's very unreliable and quite imprecise sometimes. So I successfully did what I wanted right now, but let's say this was a more complex object, and I don't expect it to work this way and this easily. But I move my origin point to this vertex like this, cursor to selected, object, set origin, origin to 3D cursor. Now, this object's origin is in this corner and I snap it here. This is how you would snap accurately in object mode, the most accurately. There is also a thing like, let's say I have this cone, and let's say my cone's origin is the bottom, like this, and I want to snap this cone to this exact vert here, but to be flush with the face. Of course, I set it to active, and here there's a button called Align Rotation to Target. Because if I don't, I snap it here and I have to rotate it manually like this. And this works, but it's not efficient. Let's say I have like 200 cones. And now I click Align Rotation to Target, and now it aligns itself to the normal of the vertex I will snap to. So like this. Let's say face project is on, and I just want to align the bottom of this cone to any of these faces, and I can do it like this instead, so I don't want to snap to vertex exactly. It will be the same thing. So you turn Align Rotation to Target on for doing these kinds of things.